You have a gym crush, right?
Sure.
And you don't go to that gym anymore, but you've been debating to go back to that gym. Get her number, get her IG or whatever. Like, you've been, like, thinking about all this solution, but it's been, like, 2-3 months and
I haven't done anything. Exactly. Yeah.
Warning. The following video is controversial and may be offensive to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
So, I want to know the difference between an impulsive thinker, someone who thinks off of emotion, and a logical thinker. Like, I want to know the difference behind it. I want to know which one's more correct. I want to know if, like, being impulsive is a good thing or a bad thing. I want to know if being a logical thinker is a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay.
So, I'll start off my question with...
What was your experience?
What is... Oh, you want to hear my experience first?
Let me hear your experience.
All right, so recently, I don't want to get personal, but you know, like something was said, and man, like I was acting off of impulse, emotion. I was angry. I was sad. I was like all over the place. I was like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Like, hey Nick, let's just go to the gym. I'm pissed right now, you know. And I was like, oh man, like I was just thinking off of impulse, saying shit out of impulse, like. You know, just making a whole mess, right? I got to the gym. I started working out. I'm thinking. And then I started, like, finding, like, oh, wait. Well, I can do this and this and this. Like... Solutions. Like, I was finding solutions. And I was like, okay, now that I took a breather, like, I'm actually logically thinking, you know? Like, I'm being more logical. I'm being, like I'm actually going into depth about it.
Right.
Like, instead of just acting off of impulse, we're like, fuck everything. I'm done with everything. I'm done. It was more like, okay, no, there's a way that this could be solved. There's a way that, like, there could be a good outcome to this, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, that was my experience.
With, like, impulsiveness?
Impulsiveness, and then later on, like, actually logically thinking.
Yeah, see, so, like, what I was going to say is, like, I think most people are both. In certain scenarios. So I think like most people there are instances where they're like impulsive and emotional, and then there are instances where they're like logical and like whatever, right? In my opinion, I feel like impulse and like acting upon emotion is like it's a very like natural response, and it's a very like short-lived response. So it's like if something happens to you, like the best way to handle it is like quickly sometimes, right? For certain scenarios, like you do need to handle things like there and now,
like impulsively.
Yeah, like impulsively, because the thing is, like, the problem with logical thinking is that it's like it takes time, right? Like you have to sit and like think about it, and like sometimes you don't have the time to sit and think about it. Like, you know, like if you get like, I don't know, like you get in a fight or something, right?
Okay.
Like you can't really like think logically in the moment. It's like you have to either run or fight in the moment, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think thinking impulsively and emotionally can be good in certain instances where it's like life or death. I think that's like...
So what I'm learning is that like they're not wrong. Like being an impulse, because I've always heard like stop thinking, like, you know, I've always been told like don't act off of impulse.
Right.
Like I can't stand impulsive people.
Yeah.
Or like I've always heard those comments before, right?
Right.
So it's like there's always been such a negative
connotation.
Connotations.
You got it.
Connotation to impulsive thinking.
Yeah. I think the reason is because it's bad to think impulsively when you can think logically. So like
explain that.
So if you have the time to sit and think about it, you should. I think thinking logically is like the first step, like you should go to if you can. But if you can't, then obviously impulse is the next best thing, right?
Okay.
So what I mean is like for example, like in your scenario, like I'm sure you didn't have to think impulsively. Like obviously you did, and you were emotional at the time. But you know, you realized after a while, like, wait, I could have just sat and thought about it and I found a solution, right?
Exactly.
So it's like in those scenarios, like it is bad to think impulsively because, you know, like it's the whole thing of like, oh, like emotions like cloud your judgment and all of that stuff, right? And like I think that is true to an extent, because like usually when you're being like emotional, it's not a logical response, right? You're just like, I'm sad or I'm angry or I'm happy, and like sometimes like emotions don't have reason, right? Like sometimes they just happen. And then like whereas like if you know like when you're thinking more like logically, you see clearer because there's reason to everything. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I feel that there are times where you should think with emotion, so to speak. But for the most part, like in our day-to-day life, like there aren't really many cases where you have to be impulsive. Right? Like only if you're like somebody on the street like wants to fight you or something, then yeah. But other than that, like for the most part, you can think and sit and be like, okay, like what should I do to solve this problem, you know?
Do you believe that there are more logical thinkers out there or more impulsive thinkers?
I want to say that the reason that it's hard to think logically is because thinking emotionally is just easier for most people. Because there's no like I don't know if you notice, but like when you're emotional and you think on impulse, like there's no effort you really have to put in. It just happens, right?
Okay.
But to think logically, to think like rationally, you have to really sit and like put effort into it, right? Like you have to actually put work.
Like take
into
time.
It. Take time. Yeah. Put work into it. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's why, like, I want to say that there's probably more impulsive and emotional people than there are like logical thinking people. Right. Yeah, but the reason for that is I think like it's just easier. Like it literally is more natural to think impulsively and emotionally.
Okay, so because right before this podcast, like I obviously like I started like like doing a little bit of research here and there.
Okay, and that's always good.
Usually like, and I'm not like obviously I'm quoting the article I read. But they said impulsive thinkers are dumb people, literally word for word, and logical thinkers are the smarter people. And their argument, actually, fine, my fucking source was Reddit. I was just embarrassed to say it.
Reddit's good sometimes. But sometimes it's like, yeah.
But they were saying, like, think about this, like, could a politician be an impulsive thinker? No, they're logical. They have to take their time. They really have to think about what they're about to say because they're going to say it to a crowd. But usually, like, a little gangbanger, like, they ain't gonna, like, logically think, like, yo, if I get this gun and point it at that motherfucker, I'm about to shoot him and kill him. Yeah. You know, it's, like, more like, hey,
like, just
boss,
go. You just do it. Yeah,
I have to do whatever I have to do to, like, save my life.
Right.
So it's, like, the argument was on Reddit was that logical thinkers are more intelligent people and impulsive thinkers are a little bit least intelligent. And this could even go to us. Like I'm an impulsive thinker, right? And you're more of a logical thinker. So it's like, but obviously, like, I don't think that I'm dumb, but
yeah, no, I don't necessarily agree with that statement, to be honest. Because, well, first it depends how you define intelligence, right? So it's like, oh, one is smarter than the other. What do you mean by that? But even aside from that, like, I feel that if you're on either end of the like extremes, so if you're like extremely impulsive or you're extremely logical, I think both extremes are bad. Because if you're extremely impulsive, like you literally don't think about anything and you just do whatever you feel like doing, right? That's obviously not good. Like you can get in trouble with that. But even being extremely logical, I think sometimes it stops you from actually taking action. Because the thing that's good about impulsive people is that they do it. Like, they do the action, right? Whatever they want to do. But with people who are, like, overly and extremely logical, they think about it so much to a point where they don't do anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so they just keep thinking
they're
about it.
They're just, like, thinking and thinking, and they're like, oh, like, maybe I can find a better solution or whatever, and, like, and then they don't end up doing anything at all. Exactly.
Or they end up doing no solution because he's always going to imagine, or she's always going to imagine
that there's a better solution.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Wait, that's cool.
Yeah.
Man, the realizations I have on this podcast is amazing.
Yeah, see, and I think that's the whole thing of, like anxiety, for example, right? Because like that's literally what anxiety is. It's kind of like something's about to happen. Let's say like you have to go, I don't know, do a speech or something, right? And you're like anxious about it, and like the whole time you're thinking like, oh, okay, like what if I need to do this better or whatever, and then like at the end of the day, it's like you could like psych yourself out where like you're thinking so many thoughts that you don't like execute the speech well. Because it's like in your head it's never as good as you want it, as like it could be, I guess, right? Yeah, so I think that's like the whole thing behind like people like, let's say, like bitching out on things. It's like if you're thinking too rationally and too logically about like, oh, like for example, like, oh, should I ask this girl out or whatever, right? It's like, just walk up. Like, you know, people always say that. It's like, no, like just go up and talk to her, right? But you know, like, but like if you're a very like rational, logical thinker, it's kind of like, but like what do I need to say, and like how do I walk up, and like, you know, it's always like you have to try to like perfect it and find the best solution or whatever.
So there should be a balance.
Yeah, there should be a balance.
So do you consider yourself very balanced, or more to the extent, because I don't believe you're an impulsive thinker, but I would put you more on the logical side.
Sure.
But do you think you're at that extreme? Because like, for example, like you're about to hate me. You're probably gonna want to cut this out, but you have a gym crush, right?
Sure.
And you don't go to that gym anymore, but you've been debating to go back to that gym. Get her number, get her IG or whatever. Like you've been like thinking about all this solution, but it's been like 2-3 months and
I haven't done anything. Exactly. Yeah. See, that's why I do think that for me, I'm a little bit leaning a little bit too far towards like logical. I think I do need a little bit more impulsiveness, like impulsive thought. Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Yeah, see, that's why I think like both sides, like obviously it's always like this. Like if you're right in the middle, I think that's perfect, because you're like, you don't think too much, but you also don't do too much. You're like right there, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, like
overall, you consider yourself.
Yeah, overall, I'm definitely like on the
balanced.
No. I think I'm more on the logical side, which is actually like it's done bad for me in the past. So you know, it's not always good to be like perfectly logical.
All right, being this close to me and everything, like seeing my day to day, like being my closest homie and everything, like where would you put me under?
You know, actually, you might find it interesting, but I think you're right in the middle. Like you're pretty much in the middle.
Hey, you heard that, mama?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much in the middle. Yeah, because you are impulsive, but the thing is, I noticed that you think a lot about everything. So it's like you think a lot, but then you act. So you're literally, you do both, which is like I think it's a good balance. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I think that's always the best balance to have.
My ego right now is like.
Another thing too is like I feel like there's merit to being a little bit more on the impulsive side, because I feel that people who are more impulsive, they take more risks than like people who aren't, which is good. I think taking risk is good as long as you take the right risks.
But see, look, you're definitely right. Like you got to take the right risk. But here's something interesting, because back in like 2018, 2019, I was like extremely impulsive, right? Like anger issues, like that whole road rage that happened, like do something. Like, see, the thing is like that was all impulse, like no logic, right? And I you know, cursed someone out, and obviously it went down. And that was because I was extremely impulsive. So I mean, I don't know. I believe like being extremely impulsive is like the worst thing anyone can possibly do, because you're gonna put yourself in situations that are, number one, are uncomfortable. Number two, you can get hurt. And number three, like, you know, like people are not gonna like you. Like if you're an extremely impulsive person, it's like, oh man, do I really want to go out with this homie? Do I really want to go out with this guy?
Yeah, it's
like,
too much risk.
You know, it's too much. Risk. Like something's bound to happen, you know?
Yeah, see, you're right. I think that's why I said, like, if you're extreme on either end, like, that's bad. But if you're, like, if you lean a little bit one way or the other, it's okay. So what I'm saying is, like, I think if you lean, you're not all the way extreme, like, impulse, but if you lean a little bit towards impulsive, I think it's good, because it allows you to take more risks that other people simply don't take, you know, and, like, they need to be like calculated risks, right? But like, you know, with that, if you're like really impulsive, you take every risk, which is like, that's not good, right?
All right, so before we hit the conclusion, I want to hear this, like, so what we've learned today, or what I learned today, is that like it's bad to be very logical, it's bad to very, very impulsive, and it's good to be in the middle. But to the people who are extremely impulsive or extremely logical, like, is there any way to help these kind of people? Because, like, obviously, like, these people are always gonna, like, you know, like, gonna be, like, let's say that they're gonna be in danger, and the logical thinkers are never gonna be able to, like, you know, commit.
Do anything.
Like, they're not gonna do anything. So is there any way to help these two? Because I feel like, okay, logical thinkers, you can at least, like, tell them, and they'll think about that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, but an impulsive person, you're like, hey, you're too impulsive. Like, you gotta chill out. Like, well, who you calling impulsive?
Yeah.
Like, you disrespect, like, whatever, you know?
Yeah, sure, I see. Honestly, I think if you think that you're one or the other, like you're one of the extremes, I think the best thing you can do is to hang out with people who are the other, like the other extreme, or not the other extreme, but at least who lean towards the other way. So if you're like impulsive all the time, maybe you should hang out with someone who's not. And then if you're like never impulsive, maybe you should hang out with somebody who
It's
is.
like that yin yang.
It's yin yang. I think it's yin yang. Because then I feel like, especially if it's two extremes, I think they could like balance out and both of them meet in the middle, kind of, right?
Do you believe like our friendship is like that?
I think to an extent.
I used to be extremely like impulsive when we were like cool, you know, we weren't this close, but we were just cool. And then you're extremely logical at one point, where it's
it was like
no
too
risk,
much.
too much. When I was to a point like, you know what, I'm gonna take the risk of going to the gym. I'm gonna take the risk of
starting a podcast.
You know, like I definitely believe like that what you just said is extremely correct, because I'm seeing it through us.
Yeah,
you know?
that's why. I think that's why I said that too, because I see it through us too. So
wow.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's with anything though. I feel like if you're too much of something as a person, like you should hang out with somebody who's on the other end
to balance each other out.
To balance out. I definitely believe in the whole yin yang thing. Like
yeah, no, I mean it's definitely not wrong. Like, man, like I kid you not. There's gonna be like, you know, a little bit deep right now, but I don't think I'd be in the position I am if I didn't find someone who balanced me out. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like, obviously this is forgotten out of my brain, but the thing is like, when I was with my ex, like I was extremely angry all the time. Obviously I kept that in my head and I put a fake smile out, but I was extremely angry and she was an angry person, so I mean
there was no like balance out.
There was no balance.
Yeah,
it was just like two mad motherfuckers. Obviously that person was showing more than I would. Like I usually, you know, like bit my fucking tongue. I have like I would like do that little like fist thing where I just like squeeze or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, there was no balance. And then like it comes to like my homies, you know, like there's a balance there, you know, like as the impulsive person, like someone that's always angry, hanging out with people that are jolly, like that kind of like, you know, combines up and I'm like happy, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's good. Yeah, definitely. I think for people who are overly impulsive, or I guess either one, it's like honestly you have to take like small steps if you want to skew your meter, let's say, the other way, right? Because if you try to just change, like I'm very impulsive, like tomorrow I'm gonna be like extremely logical, like that doesn't really work, right? So it's like you have to kind of like you have to skew your meter very slowly. So if you're very impulsive, I would say like every now and then like challenge your impulse and be like, hey, like okay, like right now I'm mad, but let me try to like think about it, whatever, you know. And then like over time you'll get used to doing that and you'll be like, oh, I can do it like on command, right? Like whenever I want. And then for like the overly logical, like try to like take very small risks like every now and then.
I like that.
Yeah, you know, like just very like tiny risks. And then eventually you'll be like, oh, like, well, I didn't die last time I did the small risk, so maybe I'll do a bigger one, and then, you know, you kind of like balance out.
No, I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
because see, like I have like more one last example before.
Yeah, examples are good.
Like for example, what I started doing, like, because obviously, like it was said earlier, I was extremely impulsive, and now he rated me balanced, you know. So obviously there was some kind of change there, and I believe like the thing is like you're gonna hate this. Like, okay, someone's pressing me, right? And in my head, this is what I'm thinking, and it sounds so bad, but like I'm like, dude, like if I fight this like beep, son of a beep, like I'm gonna straight up like I'm gonna do anything I can to like unalive this fool that's trying to hurt me. Like I ain't gonna let no one touch me like this. I'm not gonna be disrespected. But the thing is, this is where like I guess my logical side comes in, and it's like, do you really want to end someone's life?
Yeah.
Do you really want to like, you know, like ruin your name with God? Do you really want to like ruin your life on this earth? Do you really want to do that? You really want to destroy the family even though their son or daughter's a piece of peep? You know, like no, you don't want to do that. So it's like okay, you know what, I'm gonna try to like be logical, like, or I'm gonna try
Calm
to chill down,
Yeah.
and try to like find a solution. Okay, like this happened a lot when I used to work in HP, but like, hey, like, you know what, there's nothing I can do, like there's no point of fighting, we're just gonna get recorded, we're gonna look like clowns, whatever.
Yeah.
And usually that it always worked, nobody wanted to fight after I said that, but obviously I had been in situations where like, hey, like, no, their ego's hurt, they're gonna try to touch me.
Yeah.
But then once it's like, you know, like that impulse takes over, I get extremely like mad
Yeah.
to like an uncontrollable state.
Yeah.
And like usually, oh man, this sounds cocky as fuck, but that's usually when like they back off, you know?
Right. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said, like, I think being impulsive in certain situations is necessary, and and it's good too, because it's like, if somebody's literally like, you know, trying to like they're offensive on you, and you have to like defend your life or something, it's not smart to be logical in that scenario. You have to like do what you got to do, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Imagine like the times like I didn't think off that impulse, like after I did the logical thing and I didn't do that impulsive like yelling, screaming, showing that I'm actually mad.
Yeah.
Like it would have ended up in a different.
It could have been worse for you, probably. Yeah.
So I took the risk of like, hey, I got to show this person that I'm serious and I'm mad right now.
Yeah.
And then it worked out.
Yeah.
I experienced this 2 weeks ago, a week ago. Like some car pulled up by me. I was with someone, and they said some things that I didn't like. And at first I was like, okay, ignore him. The car kept going, like going off on me. Boom, I get mad.
Yeah.
Like boom,
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
show,
yeah.
like my impulse comes out. You know.
Yeah. See, like in certain
And you know
scenarios,
what the car's-
it's necessary.
Hey man, I'm sorry. Like I didn't mean to disrespect you and that. I'm not gonna say the person's name.
Sure.
I didn't mean to disrespect you and that person. Have a good night, you know, and drove off with the truck.
Yeah.
You see, it would have been a different outcome if I didn't take that risk of actually saying something, and it would have been an even different outcome if I was just standing there like, okay, what should I do? This or
Yeah,
that? Should I talk this? But at that time, the fool would have gotten out of the truck and kicked my ass. You know?
Yeah. That's true. That's funny. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true. Yeah, I think like honestly, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. I think a lot of times when people freeze up, that's kind of what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're trying to be like logical in a scenario where they don't need to be logical, if that makes sense, because then they're like, somebody does something to them or whatever, and then like they just like freeze up, and it's probably because they're like in their head thinking like,
what should I do?
What's the best response or whatever, you know? But like it's not good.
No,
you know?
because I feel like you're gonna have the same outcome as the impulsive thinker, you know, like
exactly.
You're gonna get your ass kicked, you're gonna get shot, whatever's gonna happen. Something. Obviously, I'm talking about like extremes. Like this isn't something from the daily basis.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, like with logical thinking and impulsive thinking, I feel like it's something that we can go like, your mama told you to clean your room, and you can be like, Mom, you're like, no. Or you could be like, okay, Mom, you know what? Give me some time. Like, let me think about this a little bit, and I'll clean my room after. And guess what? You clean your room. You didn't have to upset your mama. She didn't get mad at you. You didn't curse her out, made her feel like SHIT.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like an impulsive thinker, your mom, and then how are you gonna make your mama feel? You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah. Nah, I mean that's why it's like certain scenarios you need to be impulsive, certain scenarios you need to be logical, but if you're extreme impulsive or extreme logical in any scenario, it's not good. So yeah,
I think that wraps up the podcast.
That's a conclusion right there.
I like that. I really like that. Well, I mean, we still do outros, not intros. We just didn't like the intros. So
intros were too dry. It was just like
anything you want to say to the camera?
No, I think that's it. Hey, thank you guys for watching always, you know. We appreciate our viewers. It's always like it's always interesting to hear who watches our podcast, especially till the end too.
Yeah, no, we definitely appreciate it. Obviously, like we always say this and we're not going to stop saying this, like this is to build character for us as we're talking. I don't know if you guys realize this. And you guys probably like, I mean, you guys don't get to see the behind the scenes, but we keep talking about whatever we're talking about. And the thing is, like, I don't know about you, but personally, like, I start having new realizations. Like hey, like, I'm gonna deal with this differently tomorrow. You know, like it helps me. It's building my character.
For sure.
Having these conversations with Nick. You know,
it's always learning. I learn a lot from just like, and I think you guys can too. Like just from talking to your friend or whatever about like random topics like this. Like I feel like you can learn a lot. Like just from conversation.
These are the conversations we have off camera all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like that's the whole.
Might as well hit record.
Yeah, might as well hit record. We had the cool name, so it was like, hey, bro, Whole Foods. That sounds hard, you know. Like, and then we're like, okay, we have a name now, so I guess why not just record what we're saying?
Yeah, lucky.
All right. Well, thank you for sticking to the end for the Whole Foods podcast. This was our episode on logical versus impulsive thinking. Thank you for tuning in, and we appreciate y'all. And hey, we truly love y'all. Like bro.
Thumbs up to the viewers, bro.
Thumbs up to y'all. If I could give you guys a thumbs up, I would. I like that. Hey, good podcast.
Good podcast.
I appreciate what we talked about. Yeah, fuck these people, bro. Who the fuck would watch this video for 30 fucking minutes? Get a